Welcome to Cinemaphile, where we showcase the best in independent documentary and foreign filmmakers and talk to them about their work. I'm your host, Mike Kaspar. You can listen to other interviews by going to Cinemaphile with Mike Kaspar at Spotify. Strap up for director Rex Miller's headfirst dive into the turmoil and chaos that has been the life of Harley Flanagan. Wired for Chaos looks back on the founder of the pioneering band Cro-Mags and a legend in the New York City hardcore scene back in the late 70s and early 80s. Harley Flanagan is a punk rock icon who has battled chaos, defied the odds, and come out on the other side. And this film lays bare all of the good, the bad, and the ugly in his life, and a man who is constantly looking for challenge and constantly looking to challenge himself. Really a fascinating documentary film. We're joined today by the director of Harley Flanagan, Wired for Chaos, and that would be Rex Miller. Welcome to the program, Rex.
Great to be here, Mike. Thanks for having me.
He is a fascinating man. The people we get to meet in his life that have been key people and just the archival footage and so much of this makes this such a fascinating film. What put you onto this particular project?
Yeah, I have to say it was really kind of a series of synchronicity, occurrences because I didn't know Harley's music or his name, but I had mingled in his world, in his ecosystem of the downtown New York City, Lower East Side music scene in the late 70s. I was a high school kid back then. After I went to shows, I didn't go back to bombed out tenement buildings and squat like Harley did. I went home to my parents' house in Queens, but I was really into the music, and I had an opportunity to meet Harley and Laura Lee Flanagan, his wife, who's a producer on the film and in the film, through friends. A friend of mine was dating one of Harley's jujitsu buddies. And she said, "Hey, Harley might be a really interesting subject. Why don't you guys meet?" So next time I was in New York, we met. The three of us had dinner. We got along, and I think an entry point for me was this one moment in Harley's life that connected with mine, and it's represented by this photo that's in the film, or you can. I think it's a poster for the film. Marcia Resnick, photographer from those days, took a picture of Harley at age 12 mingling backstage at the first Clash concert, which was in 78, I believe 78, at the Palladium. So Harley's 12, and it's a picture of this little kid with a punk rock haircut and Andy Warhol and Joe Strummer from the Clash. And you just have to look at it and go, well, there's a story there somehow. But as it turns out, I was at that concert. Harley was backstage with the band, but I was out in the 10th row with my high school buddies, and the Clash blew everybody away. And so anyway, that was kind of an entry point, and there were a few other synchronicities that we all had in common.
The film opens with something that is draws you in immediately, and that is Harley running through, I don't know where he is, if he's in Central Park or where he is, with a guitar in hand, and he's playing the guitar as he runs. And I think that is a great way to be introduced to him.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved the image of that when he was talking about it. Like that's how he trains for going on tour. And he explained, like, I can't train for performing by sitting on my couch rehearsing my songs, because he's a ball of energy in concert, and he's running around the stage and playing the bass and singing and jumping around. So he would jog through the park, that's up in Upper Manhattan, and just train. So we planned out that shot, and it was really hot, and yeah, it came out great.
It did come out great. So let's go back to the sort of the origin story for his entry into the world of music and the scene, if you will, because it is his mom. Let's talk a little bit about how he got introduced to music.
Well, through his mom and his mom's sister, his aunt Denise Mercedes. Harley, even before he started playing in the Stimulators when he was about 11, that was Denise's band that she started, kind of a pop punk, but very much punk band, who went on to perform at Max's Kansas City, CBGB's, all of the Mud Club, all of these, and they toured extensively in the US and overseas in England and in Belfast at the very first Belfast Punk Festival back in, I want to get it right, 80, I believe it was. So Harley was a drummer already. He had performed a lot in previous years when he lived in Denmark, off and on from about age 6 to 10 or 11. He was playing in street bands and in music class in school, and he had even gone on tour when he was about 8 with, as he says, two French guys that his and his mom was a bit of a hippie. She was a bit of a Warhol kid. She was also a writer and very much a creative and very much a free spirit. So she had gone off to Denmark with a boyfriend and Harley, and they lived on a commune of fellow artists and hippies in the Denmark city of Aarhus. So that's about as far from the Lower East Side that you can get. And anyway, so Harley had a lot of music experience, not only playing, but really performing as a kid. And when he was 11, the Stimulators was touring, and like in a lot of bands, the drummer didn't show up. And Harley already knew the song, so the rest is history.
It's almost like a Spinal Tap thing, right? With the drummer thing.
Very much, very much.
It's and that's where, again, this is sort of his introduction into, he'd already lived in an adult world in some ways, in some manner of speaking. And then just what he experienced sitting on the couch, watching them perform, watching them rehearse, and the things that he saw. So I want to be careful how I say this. He was on some level prepared, but I think psychologically and otherwise, I think it's fair to say he wasn't prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the crux of this story about his childhood is that he was this little kid living a very glamorous rock and roll life. If you look at it on the surface, I mean, he was in Interview magazine in a big spread when he was about 12, and he was kind of famous on that downtown scene. This, of course, was pre-internet, but a lot of other teenagers who hung out with him wound up starting bands who all say because of Harley. Harley was like 11, 12, and these, like the Beastie Boys, two of them were his good friends. They were more like 13, 14, 15. And some other artists, Lisa Schellenbach, who would go on to be in the Beastie Boys, and Luscious Jackson was a Harley fan. So yeah, he had early punk rock celebrity success and was photographed with Joe Strummer and then later with Debbie Harry and all these people. But when you look a little closer, he was this unsupervised little kid at 3 a.m. at CBGB's.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of predatory adults. There was a ton of drugs. There was sex, as he goes into detail
Yeah,
of
he
things
does.
that happened to him. And, it's amazing. He got out of that scene, of that ecosystem, as intact as he is now.
That's the thing about this film, Harley Flanagan, Wired for Chaos, is that he is a survivor. I think that's the easy way to put it. He's a survivor. But he also, like a lot of people who come out on the other side with this, I don't know if it's profound sense of self or if it's a profound sense of life's possibilities, life's pitfalls, and all of the rest of it. Yeah, just to hear him talk, just the way he interacts with people in the film, it really is moving. I mean, at some point, I mean, in some level, he's a difficult person, I can imagine, to get close to because I imagine he's very guarded at this point in his life. At least seems that way to me. And yet, he's also very open and he's willing to really take chances with people as well. So, is that a fair kind of assessment of who he is?
Yeah, I think that duality of guarded and open, you kind of hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
And from my perspective as the filmmaker, I was just very intrigued after meeting him and hanging out with him for a few hours. He has this charisma, he has this intelligence, he's incredibly analytical, and he's totally a New Yorker, And I grew up in New York, in Queens, and loved the experience, and also loved the fact that I escaped from New York, But Harley's very much a New Yorker, so I found that all very intriguing. But at the beginning of the process of making this film, yeah, he was very guarded. Like when we first sat down to talk on camera, it was a long day and he just was kind of tired. And he was basically like, this, I'm sick of talking about this shit. I live this. Why do I have to talk about it? And it wasn't so much that he was closed to, he just he just hadn't found the way to open up about himself yet. And then a couple years later, not only was he very, very open to talking about everything, it was almost like the faucet had been opened. And he let me know one day, hey, I had my first therapy session of my life today. And I think him talking on camera about himself and then also his friends that appear in the film, Harley would often pop in to the interview and have these impromptu dialogues with his closest, most respected friends that also help push him down the road of self-examination. So towards the end of the process, he was very confident in who I feel in who he is, who he was, and he had processed a lot. So he became more and more very open to, diving deep, and I credit him for that.
I just want to remind our listeners we're speaking with Rex Miller. He's the director, I believe also producer of the film Harley Flanagan, Wired for Chaos. Is it this weekend here in
Yeah, we
NYC?
had two amazing festival premieres at Doc NYC in New York and then at Slam Dance in LA. And then June 15th starts our national screening tour in New York for 5 days and then to LA and then points beyond. And it's all up on the Wired for Chaos website.
I will tell you that just watching the film and just for our audience, that it's hard to imagine that he's alive. If half of these stories are true or close to true, it's hard to imagine being chased down by gangs who are determined to kill him when he was a teenager. I mean, the things that there's so many stories in this, so many stories about that period of time in New York. It was a troubled time for the city of New York, and certainly if you were in certain parts of New York City, it was very tough. And but the stuff that he talks about in terms of who was really out to beat him to death is just nuts.
Yeah, I chuckled as you were reading that or saying that because many people in Harley's life said the same thing. How are you alive, man? I think it speaks to his, as they say, indomitable will. He just had a will to get through all the obstacles and challenges. And yeah, he was exposed to a lot of violence. And as a little kid in on the Lower East Side, Avenue C, back in the late 70s, he was a target, And then later, as he describes very openly, he impacted a lot of other people with violence that he feels terrible about and he lives with every day. And he's very forthcoming about it, things that he regrets doing. And he survived and he turned his life around. And I think part of that it was because he continued to play music and have a means of self-expression. And also he found martial arts. And 25 years ago, he walked into Renzo Gracie's Jiu-Jitsu Academy in Manhattan, and eventually he's a third degree black belt and has been teaching for years, especially kids during right before COVID and a little during COVID. He was running the kids program at the Renzo Gracie Academy, and Harley's had his own sons who are both about grown now. So he's evolved a lot since the crazy days of the Lower East Side.
Amazing, amazing story, really an amazing story, and it's so well told. And among the many people who I think you're describing, Michael Imperioli, who seemed to be a mentor of sorts in terms of his own therapy. Really kind of touching, not a huge scene in the film, but certainly I really felt that kind of empathy that the two of their conversation they were having seemed to center on. And Henry Rollins is in the film. Flea, apparently a friend of his and kind of a fellow traveler. It feels like they may be able to share some of the same kinds of stories with one another. It seemed like Flea kind of lived a similar sort of existence. I mean, I may be completely wrong, but
No, you're absolutely right on. And the Flea interview, the Henry Rollins interview, Imperioli's conversation with Harley, they each of those was at least an hour, so it was very difficult to kill some of our darlings. But we actually have a Blu-ray set where there's extended interviews with all three of them. And yeah, they all know Harley really well and knew him back then. And I think all three of them probably said, "How are you still alive?" But they're also fellow artists. They've all experienced trauma of different sorts, and they've all come out the other side. So I think they're all well positioned to speak to Harley and about him.
yeah, absolutely. A fascinating documentary, very well done. I'm so happy on one level, very happy for Harley Flanagan for his story to get out. It's a cautionary tale. It's a tale of redemption. It's a tale of how things can go completely sideways in your life, and you can come back from it. And just it's just very well done. And it's also for somebody who, like me, is interested in music. I have been my entire life. This is a scene that I kind of know. I kind of know the New York story as far as this stuff is concerned, but it's a deeper dive into it in a way that I don't think I've ever seen. I know I've never seen before. So thank you
Yeah,
for that.
I think we like to say you don't have to know or like Harley's music to appreciate his story, and
Exactly.
that's kind of what we set out to do with the film.
Exactly. That's a perfect description of the film. And well, Rex Miller, thank you for your work. Thank you so much for spending some time with us, and all the best moving forward. I look forward to another conversation with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
You have been listening to Cinemaphile. I'm your host, Mike Caspar, and you can listen to previous interviews as well as special programming, or you can subscribe by going to Cinemaphile, that's File, with Mike Caspar, at Spotify. Until next time, thank you for listening.